Welcome back. Tonight, the King 5 investigators reveal how some say the Army continues to turn its back on some of its most vulnerable soldiers.
Last year, we found service members with PTSD being kicked out of the military for behaviors directly related to their condition. In her series, No Thank You for Your Service, King 5's Taylor Mir-Fedoreski finds another local soldier who's paying the price.
Right there in the front is Jeffrey Smith, an infantryman training in Afghanistan for one of the first of many fights. 3 combat deployments, and about 10 years later, we met Smith last spring at his Lacey home, this time fighting a new battle.
Okay, why don't you get your bike and just meet
against the Army that sent him to war.
I'm more comfortable being in Afghanistan than I am sitting in this living room right now. I'd rather be getting shot at and getting blown up and stuff than be sitting here.
His combat-related post-traumatic stress disorder is too severe for him to stay in the military. Doctors say he needs help. But instead of leaving the Army honorably for medical reasons, in April, a high-ranking Army official made a choice to kick him out of the service without honor, without VA benefits, without help. The discharge? Other than honorable. The reason? Misconduct.
I don't know how to function normally, and that's another reason I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Over 7 months last year, Smith got in trouble for 3 alcohol-related incidents. Twice he showed up to work drunk. Then he got a DUI. All behavior doctors could have predicted.
Substance abuse is as much part of PTSD as pain is part of cancer.
The Army once called Smith one of the best. Not only is he decorated with honors, but in work evaluations he consistently exceeded Army standards. But what these records don't show was Smith's private struggle.
And I would be at work and have an anxiety attack or a panic attack and start freaking out and just, go get what I've always gotten, go get alcohol.
Smith had a DUI before the service when he was 22. But after his first deployment in 2010, he says he started turning to alcohol not just in social situations, but to simply function. The Army sent him to treatment, their first of several attempts to get him help. But it didn't work.
It's when you get home that your brain starts processing everything that you went through. And I mean, we were trying to process it by ourselves. I mean, alcohol was the only way we could do it. It wasn't going and talking to somebody.
Smith couldn't talk about the helplessness he felt in battle, listening over the radio to his friend die. He couldn't talk about what it felt like to know that soldier died, and somehow he made it out of 3 separate IED blasts and this firefight.
I was sure I was dead. I mean, you see trees around you exploding. I told myself over and over in my mind, just keep squeezing the trigger until you get shot.
On that same deployment, Smith says his platoon walked through an Afghanistan village right after the U.S. military hit it with mortars.
You see kids burnt up or you see toys and stuff on the ground in schools and women burnt up.
A memory that haunts him more now that he has a family.
It's somebody's kid over there. That was just...
Last year, all that unresolved pain came to a head. That's when Smith started showing up to work late and drunk. The Army again sent him to treatment, and they put him on a track to get out of the military with a medical discharge. It's the same process they've used to separate tens of thousands of other soldiers with PTSD. But after Smith in December got that second DUI as a soldier, his captain put a stop to that medical track. He recommended to superiors that the Army instead punish Smith by kicking him out for breaking the rules.
So what
This is neuropsychologist Robert Stanulis, who specializes in treating veterans. We asked him to review Smith's military records.
If you look at what is being called misconduct, is really a measure of the severity of his symptoms.
2 psychiatrists who examined Smith in person agreed. Smith was using alcohol to avoid his trauma, to relieve the symptoms of his PTSD. In the end, it would be up to not a doctor, but a major general at Joint Base Lewis McChord to decide whether this struggling soldier deserves lifelong benefits and help or nothing at all. And you already know Smith walked away empty-handed.
Should have picked a different career.
In the Army, commanding generals always have the power to decide a soldier's fate, even those suffering from medical issues like PTSD. Those decisions are now coming under scrutiny. Last year, we introduced you to this Sheldon veteran, Cord Ball.
We witnessed like a mass slaughtering.
He, too, was diagnosed with severe PTSD. More than once, he tried to commit suicide, but against the advice of the Army's own doctors, an official kicked him out of the military with an other than honorable discharge because he smoked weed. After our investigation, whistleblowers at Madigan Army Medical Center came forward. They told us the Army has a pattern of punishing soldiers who are like Ball and Smith.
It's like the rats jumping out of the water. Hurry up and get them out. They are too much trouble.
Soldiers who fought their wars, suffered immensely, and now really just need help.
So what do Army leaders have to say about all that? Well, we've been asking for interviews about this issue for nearly a year. They declined, and in a statement, a JBLM Army spokesman said that Smith was treated to a fair separation process. He said Army officials consider input from medical providers when making their decisions, but they're standing by their decision.
But tonight, one of the country's most powerful lawmakers responds to a King 5 investigation, saying the Army needs to do better by some of its most vulnerable soldiers.
In our series, No Thank You for Your Service, we've uncovered soldiers being punished, kicked out of the Army because of behaviors caused by their service-related PTSD.
Yes, King 5's Taylor Mir Fendereski reports a top Democratic congressman says something needs to be done.
So the findings in our reporting concerns you?
Absolutely.
Washington State Congressman Adam Smith,
Resolution number 2,
chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, says our findings reaffirm a problem he's seen.
Every couple of people who come to you, several hundred come to me. So I am aware of it.
This is the catch-22. The stress of combat leads to conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder. And for some, those conditions lead to problematic behaviors. We found cases where Army leaders then kick the struggling soldiers out of the service with other than honorable discharges, treating them as troublemakers instead of people who need help.
Okay, there are some command structures that have the right people in charge who understand how to treat this, but too many don't.
Last week, we revealed Army leaders at Joint Base Lewis McChord kicked this Lacey veteran out of the service for misconduct after he showed up to work drunk and got a DUI.
It's when you get home that your brain starts processing everything that you went through.
His military medical records show his PTSD, the condition he got by serving our country, was the very reason he was abusing alcohol.
That smell of burned bodies will never leave. It could be anything. All of a sudden, I'll start getting it in my nose.
And last year, in a 5-month investigation, we uncovered local Army leaders failed to act on the advice of their own medical experts.
So what you're saying is the Army's policies to protect these soldiers don't work.
It doesn't work. Nope.
It wasn't just whistleblowers at Madigan Army Medical Center who told us about this problem. We found it ourselves in the case of this Shelton veteran at risk of suicide.
So that was like one of many things that we were exposed to.
The Army booted him for behaviors doctors said he couldn't control. He was in a special unit designed for wounded soldiers in need of help. And it was there he got in trouble for smoking pot. His medical providers found he was using the drug to cope with his anxiety and PTSD. The Madigan whistleblowers told us what happened to him is a pattern.
Yes, I agree with them completely. The question is, why did the commander overrule what the medical profession said should be done? And the why is because they have not embraced an understanding of how traumatic brain injury, PTSD, mental health issues affect the people that they are leading.
Smith says he wants to encourage better mental health training for commanders.
Because the culture right now is not there. The culture is still, mental health issues are something they just as soon not deal with.
He says it's the military, not Congress, that has to make that cultural shift.
Is there anything concrete that you can tell me that you're prepared to do to fix this?
You're not going to fix it, okay? You're not going to stop mental health. You're not going to magically make sure that every treatment is right. But what we can concretely do is change the training to better emphasize mental health. That's what we can do.
And Taylor joins us now with a closer look at her investigation. What is next after this.
Well, we wanted to know what other lawmakers think. I reached out to dozens of people who are in positions of power to work on these military issues, and I got a response back from the top lawmaker on the House, or top Republican lawmaker on the House Armed Services Committee, and he said he thinks there needs to be more oversight, and he's calling for a hearing on military health care issues where he would like something like this to be addressed.